Good evening, East Alabama. Welcome into the locker room on this Thursday afternoon. My name's Namath Pitts. We want to welcome you in. Go ahead and encourage you to hit that like and follow button on our East Alabama Now page. The locker room is here 5 days a week covering sports in East Alabama. Also, we have our East Alabama Now news tonight at 6:30 p.m. Mike Stedham and Katie Edwards have your local news. John Holder has your local weather. We always look forward to seeing what street John's going to be on tonight with the weather. And then Jordan Smith will be bringing you your sports. And all of that is tonight at 6:30 p.m. right here on our East Alabama Now page. Hey, we've had a great week so far in the locker room. We've had highlights of area volleyball. We've talked today ASWA football rankings that were released yesterday. We're going to take a look at the week 1, week 2, week 1. You know, they officially call last week week 0, so this is officially week 1 according to the HSAA, but it's really week 2. But week 1, so we're going to take a look at the ASWA rankings for that today. We've had our EAN scoreboard all week. Now, today being Thursday, yesterday was Wednesday. We didn't have any action here in East Alabama. Therefore, we don't have an EAN scoreboard today, but that will be back tomorrow after a lot of football action taking place tonight. Hopes Bluff and Southside. A lot of volleyball action tonight. So we'll have all of that tomorrow on our EAN scoreboard. Today, though, we are going to take a look at the ASWA rankings, and we're going to move higher classifications to lower classifications. So we're going to start by taking a look at Class 7A. In Class 7A, Central Phoenix City is sitting at number 1. Central Phoenix City is 1-0, so they stay where they were at a week ago. They were right there at number 1. Number 2 is Enterprise. Enterprise is also 1-0. They stay right there at number 2. Number 3 is Thompson. But before we talk about Thompson, because Thompson lost a heartbreaker in overtime last week, they played against Grayson, Georgia. They fell in that game against Grayson, Georgia. But I want to go back to Central Phoenix City and talk about Coach Nix's team. Coach Nix does a great job there. They opened up against Pinson Valley last week, a team that he once coached, and had not just a good win, it was a dominating win, 61-14 over them. And of course, Enterprise getting a lot of love, as they rightfully should. Enterprise is number 2. Of course, everybody knows Ben Blackman, the head coach at Enterprise. They had a win over Andalusia last week, 35-7. We talked about Thompson, though. They fell in overtime 15-14 to Grayson out of Georgia, which is a really good team. Number 4 in the ASWA rankings for this week is the Auburn Tigers. Coach Keith Etheridge does a great job there. They played North Miami Beach, Florida last week, and they won by a score of 49-0. Speaking of playing teams from Florida, well, Hoover made the trip down to South Florida and played Western Florida, and they got the win 17-14 in Coach Chip English's first game as the head coach at Hoover. Fill in, obviously, after what happened to Coach Glover. He comes in, gets the win for Hoover there at number 5. Number 6 is Dothan. Dothan won last week, so they stay right there at number 6, pretty much where they were at just a week ago in the preseason rankings. But for the Tigers, of course, again, you talk about just what they were able to do. You know, kind of last year was not a good year for Dothan. They were 3-7, and so kind of trying to respond to that. And I think they, not 3-7. They were last year. I trying to throw 8-3. I apologize, guys. Jed Kennedy is at Dothan. The Wolves were 8-3 last year. They opened up with a win over also a team from Florida, 27-7 over Chills, Florida. All right, number 7 is Hewitt-Trussville, who, by the way, has a big game this week. That is going to be a great game against Gadsden City. But last week, Hewitt-Trussville opened up their season in the win column. And who did they beat, you ask? Well, a lot of teams played teams from Florida. They played a team from Alabama. They played Jag. Of course, Jag is down in Montgomery, the Jaguars. They play out the Crampton Ball. Roy Upchurch leads that program. They are in the 7A region too. But Hewitt-Trussville got a 50-6 win over them. Coming in at number 8, breaking into the rankings, they were not previously ranked, is Carver Montgomery. Carver Montgomery is going to be a very underrated team this season, I think. Bobby Carr is over there. They beat Vestavia Hills 41-19. Vestavia Hills was the team that was ranked, and then Carver Montgomery takes in at that spot. Number 9, they moved up from 6A to 7A this year, and that is Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. Hillcrest Tuscaloosa is coming in at number 9 this week in Class 7A. They beat Florence last week 32-20. Coach Jamie Mitchell leads that program. And number 10, they did lose last week, but they still stay in the rankings, and that is Mary Montgomery. Mary Montgomery is in at number 10, and they fell to Pace, Florida, by a score of 17-14. Let's move to Class 6A. Taking a look at Class 6A, Saraland is at number 1. Saraland got a big win, packed out stadium as they hosted one of the top teams in Class 4A in the Jackson Aggies, and it was Saraland who got the win over Jackson 35-27. Ranked number 2 in Class 6A is Parker, and we take a look at Parker. They also opened up the season with a win, and it was a dominating win. It was a dominating win. I apologize, as they beat Ramsey 41-12. Number 3 in the rankings in Class 6A is Clay Chalkville. How about the Cougars opening up their first game of the season with a win? You know, Coach Glover obviously went to Hoover, now not at Hoover, so filling in this year as the new head coach is Stuart Floyd, played at Clay Chalkville. They got a win over Hueytown by a score of 28-7. Number 4 is a team that moved down from 7A to 6A, and that is Spain Park. Spain Park opened up the season with a 38-7 win over Sparkman, and they come in at number 4. Number 5 is Oxford, the Yellow Jackets. They went on the road. Sam Adams' team went to Central Carrollton, Georgia, and they had to fight and claw to come back from behind, but ultimately won 56-46 over Central Carrollton, Georgia. One of the games of the year already was Gadsden City coach Ollie Smith's team last week, hosting Muscle Shoals. It was a 33-28 win for Gadsden City over Muscle Shoals. That was a big win for Gadsden City to start the season. Next up at number 7 is Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook in that region with Oxford and Clay Chalkville. Mountain Brook opened their season up with a 28-0 win over Demopolis. Coach Chris Yeager does a phenomenal job at Mountain Brook. Number 8 is a champion from 5A a year ago. They move up to 6A, and that is Gulf Shores. Now, Gulf Shores lost their opening game of the season, but of course they're still in the rankings at number 8. But Mark Hutzbest's team lost to a team out of Florida. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. Choctawhatchee, Florida, and Gulf Shores fell 31-7. Number 9 is a team that also fell last week, and that is Pike Road. Pike Road lost last week, still ranked though. Pike Road, though, played Prattville and lost 41-37. That was a very close game. And number 10, we talked about it a minute ago. Gadsden City got the win over Muscle Shoals, but Muscle Shoals stays in the rankings as they fell 33-28 to Gadsden City on the road at Gadsden City. All right, that's the ASWA rankings for Class 7A and Class 6A. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Class 5A and Class 4A. Don't go away. It is Thursday afternoon as we continue on the Locker Room right here on our East Alabama Now page.
We live in a world that moves quickly, and while we are able to connect faster than ever through technology, maybe you've noticed that real connection is hard to come by. Parker Memorial Baptist Church offers you a place to connect, a place to learn more about Jesus and the difference He can make in your life, a place to build relationships with like-minded believers, or maybe discover what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. A place to use the gifts and talents God has given you. A place where we love God and we love you. Parker Memorial Baptist Church, 1205 Quintard Avenue, Anniston. Visit our website for details.
We are back on the Locker Room on this Thursday afternoon talking the Alabama Sports Writers Association's Week 1 rankings. These are the second released rankings of the season. Let's talk Class 5A now. We talked Class 7A and Class 6A in our last segment. Let's go to 5A. Coming in at number 1 in Class 5A is the Guntersville Wildcats. Hey, shout out to the Guntersville Wildcats. I always do this, but Guntersville is my granddad's alma mater, so he always loves when I give Guntersville a little shout out. That's where he went to high school at. But hey, how about Coach Lance Reese's team, by the way? They played Southside last week, went on the road to Southside, and they won 35-13. They're at number 1. Number 2, well, they moved up from 4A. They won state championship last year in 4A. That is Montgomery Catholic. They have been a powerhouse for years now and won a couple state championships now, but Catholic of Montgomery comes in at number 2. Rightfully so, because I believe they deserve this spot. You look at what Coach Kirk Johnson's done at Montgomery Catholic now in his 4th season there. They won the state championship again a year ago. They made the state championship in 2020 and lost under Coach Blackwell. Made the semifinals in 21-22, so really only one championship there, but that was last year. And they opened up with a big 42-14 win over St. James, which is a little bit of a rivalry game with St. James being close by. Next up's Danny Horn's Central Clay Vols. They come in at number 3. Central Clay County, by the way, opened up the season with a win last week over Hanley. This is a rivalry game, and it was 40-7. Just absolute dominant performance from Central Clay as they beat Hanley 40-7. Number 4 is Ramsey. Ramsey lost their season opener. We talked about this in our last segment. Of course, they lost to Parker. It was 41-12. Parker really had their way with Ramsey and dominated them. And so Ramsey fell, but they still are at number 4. Number 5's Moody. Moody lost their opening game of the season. Coach Gannis' team hosted Gainesville, Georgia, where Coach Niblett's currently at. And they go on the road to Oxford this week. But Gainesville, Georgia defeated Moody 31-7. Number 6 is Leeds, a rival of Moody. Leeds started their season out on a positive side as they got in the W column. They defeated Mortimer Jordan 42-20. Number 7 is Fairview. Now, Fairview did not play last week, so this will be their season opener this week for Fairview. And, of course, Fairview is coached by George Redding Jr. They play in 5A Region 7. They're going to open up at Springville this week. Last year, they lost to Springville 24-0. Last time these two teams played, it was 2017, and Fairview lost that game 24-0. They've only ever met twice. This will be the third meeting between these two teams, but Fairview comes in at number 7. Number 8 is the Scottsboro Wildcats. And how about Scottsboro, by the way? Scottsboro, coached by, former Sylvania head coach Tyler Van. They opened up with a 31-6 win over Fort Payne. That was a really good win for Scottsboro to open the season. Number 9 is Viger. And how about the Wolves? Not enough people are talking about Viger. Coach John McKenzie takes over this team. He'll be his first season as the head coach. And they opened up with a win over Blunt, 38-6. They host Tuscaloosa County this week. That'll be a very interesting game against Tuscaloosa County. Tuscaloosa County, coached by Miles Holcomb. They fell to Central Tuscaloosa a week ago. Miles Holcomb used to be here in East Alabama at Southside. And then at number 10 in Class 5A is a team that dropped from 6A, and that is Briarwood Christian out of Birmingham. Matthew Forrester does a great job there. They lost 38-28 to Oak Mountain to open their season. So that is our Class 6A rankings. All right, Class 5A. Now we move to Class 4A. I don't know why I said 6A. Moving to 4A, no surprise here who's at number 1 in Class 4A. Even though they lost, they're still number 1, and that's because of how talented their roster is, and that is the Aggies of Jackson. They traveled to Saraland last week, and they fell to Saraland 35-27. They're at home this week where they will host Demopolis. Coming in at number 2, a lot of people are talking about Bibb County this season. A lot of people think Bibb County has as talented of a roster as they've had down in Centerville. Of course, the Choctaws opened up with a 29-21 win over Chilton County. They get Gordo this week on the road. That'll be a very intriguing non-area game or non-region game to see how it goes. Pleasant Grove's at number 3. Pleasant Grove dropped their season opener under Coach Darrell LeBeau. They fell to McAdory 38-35. They are open this week. They will not play, but although they fell, they're still right there at number 3. Number 4 is Cherokee County. They also lost. You see a pattern here? 3 of the top 4 teams right here all lost last week. And most of the rankings are like that this week for Class 4A. Cherokee County fell to Piedmont. Ishmael Bethel made that big catch in the end zone right there to end the game. And it was ultimately Piedmont getting the win over Cherokee County. And so we're going to see how Coach Jacob Kelly's team responds after falling 34-27 to Piedmont. Cherokee County is number 4. Number 5 is Anniston. Anniston was off last week. They played in a jamboree game at Cleveland County. The Bulldogs now will have their home opener on their new turf as they host Beauregard this week. And so the Anniston Bulldogs come in at number 5. Number 6, the 3A state champion a year ago, Mobile Christian. The Leopards, they also lost last week. Talk about all these teams. They all have one thing in common. They lost last week. Mobile Christian lost 24-3 to Chelsea. And so the Leopards fell. They were on the road. They have an open date this week. They will not play. They'll be back in action next week. The next team we're going to talk about, who's coming in at number 7, Madison Academy. They fell to Mars Hill Bible 34-7. So Mars Hill Bible defeated Madison Academy 34-7. So Jackson lost, Bibb County won, Pleasant Grove lost, Cherokee County lost, Mobile Christian lost, Madison Academy lost, Now we go to number 8 in Class 4A, and it is Coach Short. We had him on preseason. He talked about this team. This is a team that pushed Cherokee County last year. That's West Morgan, the Rebels. They won 31-0 last week over Randolph, and they're coached by Coach Drew Phillips. Next team is Larry Strain's Hanley Tigers at number 9. They lost last week. They lost to Central Clay County, and again, it wasn't really close at all. Central Clay County had their way with Hanley as a 40-7 win for Central Clay County. We had a tie this week at 10 between Brooks and St. Michael's. Both of these teams, so really 11 teams this week. Brooks, coached by Tim Bowens, they were off last week. They will open the season up on the road at West Morgan this week. And of course, everybody knows the head coach at St. Michael's played in the NFL for a long time from Athens. That's Phillip Rivers right there. His team got a 31-10 win last week over Bayside Academy as they opened up their season on a positive note. All right, so that is we've done 7A, 6A, now 5A and 4A. When we come back, we're going to talk 3A, 2A, and 1A. Don't go away. We continue on the Locker Room on this Thursday afternoon.
For over 60 years, Oxford Lumber has been servicing our area, and our customer service has always been our main focus. Our customer service is what sets us apart from anyone else. From the moment you enter, our highly trained staff will treat you like family.
To enthusiastically provide total customer satisfaction within a positive and self-fulfilling employee relations environment. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or at oxfordlumber.com.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
We are back on the Locker Room on this Thursday afternoon. Hey, we were talking ASWA Sports Writers rankings. We are now down to our final 3 classifications, Class 3A, Class 2A, and Class 1A. So with that being said, let's go to Class 3A and take a look at these rankings. Number 1 in Class 3A is the Fife Red Devils. They were off last week, but they will go on the road this week as the Fife Red Devils will go head-to-head with Pisgah. So that'll be a big game for Fife. Everybody's talking about T.R. Miller dropping from 4A to 3A, and the Tigers last week, 28-7 win over Reeltown. Reeltown played for a state championship a year ago in Class 2A. It was all T.R. Miller last week as they played down at the Crimpton Bowl Arena, and they got the win. Everybody's also talking about Trinity Presbyterian. I was high on Trinity the past couple years. They've let me down, so I didn't put as much stock in them this year as everybody else is. But the Wildcats did get a 21-10 win over Holtville last week under Coach Brian Seymour. All right, number 4, Mars Hill Bible. We talked about them in our last segment and the big win that Mars Hill Bible had to start the season over a 4A team in Madison Academy, and it was all Mars Hill Bible. I got to tell you, when you talk about Mars Hill and what they've become under Coach Daryl Higgins, I mean, truly astonishing what they've done. And last week was a dominant 34-7 win over Madison Academy. Number 5 in Class 3A is the Gordo Green Wave. Yep, you got to talk about Gordo, traditional powerhouse program under Gus Smith. They won 62-12 over Fayette County, and that was a big win for Gordo. And number 5. Number 6 is Coach Jonathan Miller and the Piedmont Bulldogs. I don't think a lot of people realize how good of a coach Jonathan Miller really is. And last week he led his team into Cherokee County. Tough place to play, and they won 34-27. That was big for the Bulldogs to open the season. Coming in at number 7 is Geraldine. Geraldine last week started their season with a win. They move out of this region with our local team, so not talked about as much as before, but the Bulldogs under Coach Michael Davis had a 35-6 win over Sardis. So pretty big win for Geraldine to start the season. Number 8 was my preseason number 2, and that is Thomasville. Now, Thomasville opened up their season with a win as they defeated Leroy, again a top team in Class 1A. Thomasville defeated Leroy 35-0. This week they'll play Sweetwater, another really good lower classification team, as Thomasville opens their season up with a 35-0 win. Number 9 is Houston Academy. Houston Academy out of Dothan. The Raiders last week won 45-12 over GW Long, so they opened up their season with a win, and they're at number 9. And number 10 is the Rams of Sylvania. Of course, Coach Van is now gone. He's up at Scottsboro, so Sylvania had some changes this offseason. Of course, now it's Tanner Nelson leading that program. They lost last week to North Jackson 14-6, but they stay in the rankings at number 10. Let's move to Class 2A. Number 1 is Pisgah, and this week Pisgah is at home. They are going to host Fife. And how about Pisgah, by the way? It used to be everybody talked about baseball at Pisgah. Now they're talking about football. What Coach Luke Pruitt has done there is truly astonishing. I believe Coach Pruitt is now in his, 7th season, if I'm not mistaken, at Sylvania. Made the semifinals 2 years in a row. Of course, lost to who everybody loses to. That's Fife. Fife's out of the way now. Can Pisgah get over the hump? They were off last week, but they do host Fife this week in a non-region game. Number 2 is the Flying Squadrons of Highland Home. Highland Home is at number 2 this week, and Highland Home started off their season with a win last week. They beat Strong 38-9. Number 3 is Tuscaloosa Academy. They were an AISA school for a long time. They are now, of course, everybody knows, an AHSAA school. And Tuscaloosa Academy, the Knights, coached by Coach Josh Wright, they beat American Christian Academy last week 38-24. Number 4 is Cottonwood. I got to tell you what, Cottonwood had a good baseball team this past spring. They got a good football team this fall. You need to keep an eye on Cottonwood. And last week, Cottonwood started their season with a 22-0 win over Randolph Clay, which is out of Georgia. Number 5 is the Coosa Christian Conquerors. And now, look, nobody has a tougher schedule in Class 2A than the Coosa Christian Conquerors. They went on the road last week. They played Pierce County, Georgia. If you don't know a lot about Pierce County, Georgia, well, they won a state championship last year in South Georgia, or won a state championship in Georgia, but they're out of South Georgia. Margo Bryant's team fell to Pierce County 41-7. But again, if you can get out of that game healthy, it'll help his team in the long run. This week, they go to Pell City. Number 6 is Decatur Heritage. Decatur Heritage is right here at number 6, and they're a really good team. Also moving up from 1A to 2A, and they opened up their season with a 42-22 win over Sheffield. Number 7 is Vincent. Vincent played a really, really, really good Winterboro team last week, and a lot of people are talking about Winterboro as a sleeper team in 1A, and Vincent got a 19-6 win over Winterboro at Winterboro. So that was a big win for Vincent. This week, they get B.B. Comer, and B.B. Comer fell to Wadley last week 34-6, so that'll be interesting to see how Vincent and B.B. Comer goes down. Number 8 is Sologent, and when you talk about Sologent this year, I mean, guys, you got to talk about their skill players. They've got some really good skill players this year. And last week for Sologent, the Blue Devils, they beat Marion County 42-22 to open up their season. Number 9 is Clark County. Clark County comes in at number 9 in the ASWA rankings in Class 2A. And then number 10 is the team that fell to T.R. Miller, and that is Reeltown. That game was down at the Crampton Bowl Arena. Let's move to Class 1A. Number 1, Alvin Henderson, currently committed to play college football for Auburn. That's right, he's the running back for Elba. And Elba has always traditionally had a strong program. The Tigers won last week 50-22 over Laverne. And you look at Elba, made the semifinals a year ago, made the second round in 22-21. But you go back to 2015, won the state championship, 2014, made the semis, won the state championship back in 2011. So Elba is a familiar team. They're familiar with playing deep in the playoffs. Wadley had a big win over B.B. Comer. We talked about it just a second ago. They're number 2. Number 3 is Sweetwater. Number 4 is Leroy. They fell to Thomasville last week. 5 is Brantley. Number 6 is Hackleburg. Number 7 is another team that I'm always high on, and that is Maplesville. I think Maplesville is a really good program, and they know winning football. The Red Devils are coached by Brad Abbott. They were off last week, but they will open up their season this week on the road at Isabella. So they will make the trip to Isabella this week. Maplesville will. And so they actually open up their first 3 games are all on the road. Number 8 is Spring Garden. They had a big win over Sandrock to start the season. That game was at home for Coach Barrett Ragsdale. Number 9 is Lynn. Lynn comes in here in Class 1A at number 9. And last week, Lynn, by the way, coached by Mark Hastings, or Hastings, apologize. They beat Meek last week 33-20. And the final team in Class 1A coming in at number 10 is another team that is always pretty good, and you're always talking about them in the playoffs, and that is the Panthers of Georgiana. Last week they fell to Greenville 35-0, but still ranked. They made the second round last year. They made the quarterfinals back in 2016, 2015, but made the semis in 1995. But you look at the history for Georgiana, made the championship in 89, still looking for their first state championship in the AHSAA history. All right, so that is the ASWA rankings for this week. That means that's going to do it for us today. Hey, hope you'll join us back here tomorrow on the Locker Room. We'll have highlights of the Oxford Yellow Jackets flag football game against Moody tonight, so make sure you join us tomorrow for that. I'm Namath Pitts, and thank you for watching the Locker Room.